Colorado Rapids announced earlier today that they were reformatting or altering what they were doing at the youth soccer level with Colorado Soccer Association and formally ending their partnership relation affiliation with Colorado Rapids Youth Soccer Club, CRYSP or CRYSC for short, as they've been referring to it internally. I spoke to a few people about the club, Mark. I think there's been a lot of blowback on this on social media. I think there's been some misunderstandings. Mark, you might remember I was invited to the Colorado Soccer Association banquet where Brian Crookham was inducted into the CSA Hall of Fame, and there were some presentation speeches at the podium about this. This included Porrick Smith. I was interested in what was said at the time about that, Mark. I wasn't super surprised, and I also don't think it was super controversial what happened. So, given I was there in the room where it happened when this was discussed, and then now seeing the press release and then also seeing the initial blowback, which I think is mostly people seeing the headline and then maybe not actually reading the press release or knowing the full stuff going on in there. Essentially, listeners, the main decision that the club had here is that over the course of the last year or so, they had had some town halls and meetings with people within the CSA space, coaches, leadership, clubs, etc., about how the Rapids could better interact within CSA and within youth soccer, and then what that should end up looking like. And the big thing coming out of this is that there was a lot of confusion about what role the club had with CSA affiliation, providing resources, etc., while simultaneously having a club affiliated with the club wearing club merch in CRYSC. And there's a lot of confusion from people from other clubs about wanting resources like coaching clinics and stuff like that, resources for players, tryouts for the academy level or, individual development, stuff like that, resources for referees and parents. And there was confusion about whether or not that was open to everyone and something that the club was offering, or that's something that you then had to get onto CRYSC and have access to that. There was confusion, Mark, about whether or not Chris was the exclusive U11, U12-ish age affiliation for the club, and then the only way to get into the academy is to be affiliated with that, which is not true. In the time that the Rapids have been with Chris, Cole Bassett came over from Colorado Rush. I believe also Sam Bassett, if I'm not mistaken. If we're counting it, Mark, and I would, you had Sam Bynes coming over from Pride down in Colorado Springs, and then Adam Beaudry is from Real Colorado. I would argue, Mark, the three biggest homegrowns, and I'm not sure where Darren Yappy was prior to the Rapids Academy, but Mark, right there, that's three or four of the biggest Rapids homegrowns in recent memory, none of whom were involved in Chris directly. Not Darren Yappy. Oliver LaRoz was involved on the initial program, I think in 2009, Mark. I don't remember if Ollie was actually with Chris at that time. So in any case, the Rapids go into the community, Mark, and they're asking, how can we better be involved? Where can we get out of the way? Where do you want resources? Where do you need resources? And a lot of the feedback they got was not that what the club was doing was bad or the club needed to do more of stuff, but just that there was a confusion about the structure. And effectively, CRYSC has done a lot of good stuff. They have a lot of really good coaches. They worked really hard. The club has benefited from, I think, having the Rapids association with them. It's not clear to me that there was any significant financial relationship there, to be clear, Rabbi. And CRYSC existed before. People who've been in the youth soccer space will remember them originally as Fusion. They're now going to go they're going to go to a new name, Storm, for the 2026-2027 season. And then the Rapids are going to be opening up or expanding or making more obvious the resources that they have, Mark, with the partnership with CSA and that community. And that includes coaching education and technical curriculum that is available to everybody, over 17 clubs, Mark, and between coaches, parents, and players, over 60,000 people who have access to all of this, to be clear. Parents and referee education, safeguarding and safe sports best practices, and then enhanced player identity stuff. And that includes, Mark, the Futures program, which is available to anybody within CSA or within playing soccer at the youth level in Colorado. And previously, I think there was just simple confusion that the Rapids had these resources that was available to everybody, but then thought, oh, that was only a CRYSC thing because that you had a club existing in that space that had Rapids branding on it. So I wouldn't even call this a reorg, Mark. This is simply the Rapids are decoupling from one club who has done really well that I don't think needs the Rapids in order to continue doing good work for coaching development and for players. And that's now going to make it more obvious to an onlooker adjacent or from afar as to the resources that are available. And the Rapids are going to be focused more on providing resources for those who need it, for those who want it, for those who are reaching out, rather than, hey, there's these resources, but also we have a team ourselves. Like on some level, Mark, I see this as, the ending to the first Jurassic Park movie where uh, Hammond is saying, like if we just step aside, life will find a way. And the Rapids are choosing where they want to help all of the dinosaurs without officially being affiliated with the T-Rexes. Mark, I've explained a whole lot. I would encourage you, listeners, to go over and actually read the press release. I do think the Rapids, Mark, were a bit of a victim of what was the headline that we tweeted out versus what was the headline that we had on the actual press release, where the headline said, I'll read both of these out here, Mark. Twitter is taking a moment to load. We're doing a great job here at holding the high line, listeners. You have no idea. So the post on social media that the Rapids had about this was official. The club will conclude its formal affiliation with Colorado Rapids Youth Soccer Club following the completion of the 2025-2026 season. Mark, there are some people who assumed that is the Rapids shutting down the academy, which, as I've just explained, is not what's happening. If you actually click the press release, because you should read the links, not just the headlines, listeners, Colorado Rapids announced evolution of youth soccer strategy in Colorado, which I would say is more accurate. Mark, you and I have both been writers where our editors have changed the headlines to make it more buzz or noteworthy. I, as the managing editor of Burgundy Wave, have done this before and had it come back to bite me in the butt. I am not in a position to criticize the club for that. But Mark, having heard my explanation and then also maybe seeing and having your own initial reaction to it, do you feel better about this? Are you concerned about this? Are you okay?
I don't like it. I mean, I think I understand. I read the press release and I understood what they were trying to get at, and you said it well, which is in the attempt to couple the Colorado Rapids professional senior team to a youth club, they made it seem like the Rapids were bespoke and exclusionary of all other soccer clubs in the state from getting clinics and relationships with the Rapids and scouting and all these other things. Um, and moreover, I'll say it differently, which the press release doesn't say, but it's something that I know from kind of dealing with it, which is there's no relationship, there's no path, there's no guaranteed path from Colorado Rapids Youth Soccer Club to the Colorado Rapids Academy system and from the academy system to the senior team. If you're one of the best players in Colorado, they're gonna notice you and you might end up in the academy, right? The fact that Iggy played for the Colorado Rapids Youth Soccer Club at the age of 5 did not mean that he was likely to make the more likely to make the U15s than when we switched him to Skyline, which is another club in town, a great club with great coaches. But Matt, here's the thing. I don't think anybody thought that. I don't think anybody thinks. I mean, maybe a few people do, but I don't think people think like, oh, my kid isn't going to get special attention from the Colorado Rapids because he's at Skyline or Real or Rush or whatever else. Like, and my
From
biggest
from the town
fear
halls,
is
Mark, I heard there was a lot of confusion. So
that's
I
dumb. That's dumb, and I don't accept it. That's fine. That's fine, but that's dumb. Okay? If your kid is good at soccer, the Rapids will find him. Look at Ollie LaRaz. Look at Sam Vines. Like all of these guys are examples. They did not start with. Well, Ollie started with Colorado Rapids youth, but Cole didn't. Right? Lots of soccer
mhm.
players play all over the state and they wind up with the Rapids. But I don't. I just if you that some dumb soccer dad in Arvada standing up and raising his hand at a town hall. I'm not listening to that idiot. Okay. And I apologize if you're a dumb soccer dad in Arvada. If you're listening to this podcast and you're from Arvada and you're a soccer dad, you are by definition not dumb, and I'm not talking about you. But anyways, the point is this: all you had to do is ask one question to one guy at the Rapids. Hey, my kid doesn't play for CRSY Like, does that am I locked out of the system? And the answer is no. Like it's like one phone call. It's like a simple answer. Anyways, my fear is this, Matt, which is financially the two weren't particularly coupled together, but they had some kind of relationship. And now think that that relationship is going away. I actually think the Rapids should have more doubled down on going all the way down to the age zero. I think I fundamentally believe that the German system and the Spanish system and the Italian system, where the senior team makes oodles and oodles of money and then filters that all the way down to the youth system, so that if you're a U4 in Bavaria, you play for Bayern Munich or a Bayern Munich league where you and your family pays like $20 registration and that's it to play soccer. And in Iceland, it's like that. And in England, it's often like that. Like soccer is cheap for young kids the world over because the big senior expensive parent club is making a lot of money and can filter it down. MLS isn't that way. Like they're not making so much money at the MLS level that they can filter that money down. Comma, however, that is the system we should be aspiring to. We should be aspiring to a system where MLS teams are, are making soccer more available to young children and families at a younger level for cheaper or for free, not the other way around. And fundamentally, Matt, I think this decision is going in the other direction from that. It means the Rapids are not going to invest money at a lower level. Were they doing it before? Not really. But it means once they uncouple, they're definitely not going to do it now. There's no money from the Colorado Rapids going to soccer kids at the age of 7 or at the age of 10 or at the age of 5. They just, to be blunt, Matt, they wait for us parents to pony up the cash for years and years and years for our kids to get decent at soccer. And then when they make it to 11 and there's 500 kids at a tournament, they pick the one or two or three kids out at that tournament who they think are really good, and they bestow upon them free soccer for at the U11, U13, U15 system. The US soccer system is pretty broken in the sense that like for middle class and upper class parents, we'll pay hundreds or thousands of dollars for our kids to play soccer. And if they're in the 1% of the 1%, then the Colorado Rapids will swoop in and say, here, it's all free now. But we've already spent all this money to try and get our kids that way. This makes that worse. Or if it doesn't make it worse, it definitely doesn't make it better.
You said a lot there, Mark. There's a part of it that I disagree. I think there's a bigger picture of the pay-to-play system is broken. There's a lot of things that I think MLS teams could do within their local sphere of influence in order to improve that. I think there are ways for the Rapids to do something or move towards the German model with that is not them having a club affiliated, wearing their badge, wearing their gear down to a certain level. I don't know how far down in CSA that CRYSC was end up going. As far as the futures program, they talk about that at the U11, U12 level. The Rapids have an academy team starting at U14. So I don't know if that goes down to 5 or 7, Mark. I think there's a lot of ways for the Rapids to provide resources down to the U7, the U5. I don't know, Mark. Are 3-year-olds playing organized soccer in AYSO in the state of Colorado? Maybe.
Some, but they can barely walk. So
Okay, let's start with I U5 then maybe. 4 and 5-year-olds are doing that. You know, I started AYSO at I think 5 or 6 would have been kindergarten or first grade maybe. Anyways, I think there's a lot of ways for the Rapids to positively influence that, to influence the system, to be involved in Mark, you said Bayern Munich League, as in basically a league sponsored and run by Bayern Munich, not specifically that Bayern Munich was fielding a non-tryout team at the U7 level that is within a system that is not Bayern Munich run locally in the greater Munich area. And so I think there are ways for the Rapids to have their influence to lift up, to help out, to provide resources to the Colorado Soccer Association without directly having a club affiliated, not affiliated, perceived to be affiliated. And for all your comments, Mark, about it being dumb, they had a bunch of town halls. There were, I think, 17 clubs that were involved. Clearly, this was a point of confusion. It befuddles me, or I find it interesting that there's so many people in that space that think that this news and this decision, Mark, was done gathering a lot of information, listening to that community, was overwhelmingly positive within the population that it directly affected, but then the greater fan base reads a headline and then judges it differently. I understand and respect your opinions, Mark, as someone who's been in that youth soccer space, in which I am only looking from a different standpoint. Do you have opinions about this? Listeners, do you have a kid who was in CRYSC or who was in a club that played against CRYSC in matches? We want to hear from you. Email us at rapids96podcast at gmail.com, and we'll talk about it. We'll read it out. We'll hear from it. But I have it on very, very good authority that the people most affected by this decision view it in a positive way. I would encourage you, listeners, go out and read the press release if you have not read it yet, and go and check out my written work on Burgundy Wave that should be up sometime on Wednesday or Thursday, breaking this down in a little more detail as someone who has been in the rooms where this happened. Mark,